How you doing? Deviant D for Lights and Entertainment. Hope your day is going well. Literally just got done watching Rob Zombie's new film, 31. It's his sixth film. Comes after House of Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, his two Halloween movies, Lords of Salem, and now 31. Sixth movie. And no, I don't count that Haunted World of El Super Beasto or his live concert film as Rob Zombie directed. I'm talking about the feature-length films, alright? And I've been a fan of Rob Zombie since I was a kid. Obviously, my first introduction to him was through his music. And I started watching his movies as soon as he started making them. I remember seeing House of Thousand Corpses when it first came out. Really dug the flick. Thought it showed a lot of promise for him as a director. I think, honestly, my favorite film he's done was his next film, his second, The Devil's Rejects, which is basically a spiritual sequel to House of Thousand Corpses. Really dug that flick, and he actually got the most mainstream acceptance Rob Zombie's ever going to get with his movies, anyway, through Devil's Rejects. Then his next two films, Halloween and Halloween 2. Now listen, I'm a huge fan of the original John Carpenter film. I'm a fan of the series. I'm a slasher nut. I love slasher films. So the first Halloween Rob Zombie did, I dug. It was good. I'll say this: I like the beginning of his film a lot better than the second half. The first half of Rob Zombie's Halloween focused on Mike Myers when he was a little kid. I thought that was interesting. We'd never seen that before, gone there before. Thought it was cool. Truth be told, his Halloween Part 2, I think, is the worst film he's ever made. That movie's terrible. I've watched it twice, and both times it's a struggle to get through it. I won't get into it. It's just a bad movie. Lords of Salem, I've honestly only seen once, and I really need to watch that movie again because I remember the first time I watched it, literally the movie was over and it left me. It was one of those films that leaves you like, what the hell did I just watch? If somebody asked me to describe the plot in detail, even though I just watched it, I would struggle. So I need to watch that one again. But anyway, brings us to number 6 on his resume, 31. The story is pretty simple. It's familiar territory for Rob Zombie. If you're familiar with all his films, this is honestly more of the same. One reviewer, I can't remember if it was Shock Till You Drop or Fangoria, said, before you even watch this movie, you already know if it's for you or not. And I couldn't agree more with that. The setup's pretty simple. These 5 carnival workers are driving through, I think it's Texas, assuming it's Texas. It's 1976. Rob likes to film stuff back in the 70s because he's such a huge fan of the exploitation films of that era. He likes to set his films in that time era. Anyway, 5 carnies get attacked by these clowns, and they're dropped in this underground just warehouse called Murder World. And they're forced to play this game called 31. That's where the title comes from. And the movie takes place on Halloween. Very smart. And basically they have to survive 12 hours in the murder house. And they're chased by these just psychopathic killers dressed as clowns. Yeah, clowns. Yeah. So you get a lot of creepy clowns. So if you don't like clowns, you're going to get a lot of gory shit with clowns. They refer to the clowns as heads, like there's Death Head, there's Doom Head, which is like the last one. He's kind of the main antagonist if you had to choose one. Anyway, so these 5 people have to survive 12 hours, and supposedly at the end of 12 hours, the doors will open and they can go on their way. That's the game. It was alright. I mean, it didn't knock me on my ass like something like, I remember seeing The Devil's Rejects in the theater when it came out, and I was like, whoa. You don't get mainstream horror movies at the Cineplex like that. They're usually straight to DVD or straight to Netflix, stuff like that. And even though 31 didn't get a wide release, it still had an events roadshow, if you will, so it still hit a few screens. Yeah, like I said, it's pretty by the numbers. a lot of the things, I mean, if you've seen a horror movie in your life, you can kind of telegraph certain events. And I will say this, though. Supposedly the budget was $1.5 million. Rob Zombie must know how to stretch a buck, because it looks pretty damn good for $1.5 million. The clowns themselves, yeah, they're pretty cool. He had a big thing with the German accent, which he made that fake trailer for Grindhouse with the women, werewolf women of the SS. Yeah, the first killer clown, the first head, I forget his name, Psycho Head or something like that. He's a little person with a Hitler stash, and he has like the swastika on his chest, and and like they go into one of his rooms once, and you got the SS flags everywhere. Two of the other clowns, it's a pair of ones. It's Sex Head and Death Head. Death Head speaks nothing in German, so there's a lot of German getting thrown around. Obviously, a mark to all the SS movies made in the exploitation era of the 1970s. While it did stretch its buck for $1.5 million, like his establishing shots, he has a few pan shots, a lot of edits are really cool. But then when you get to certain action parts, we get back to the shaky camera action, which obviously is like a technique to make, stuff cheaper. And it got a little disorienting, and it was like, ugh, okay. Like, it wasn't done for style, it was done to save a buck, and you could tell. For gore hounds out there, you'll want to see this because it is very gory. I mean, decaps, disembowelments, you got them all. Rob Zombie never shies on the red stuff, so at least if you're a gorehound, that makes it entertaining. But I'll leave the trailer in the info section, so check out the trailer. Once again, if you're not a fan of Rob Zombie, you're not gonna get introduced with this film. Basically, this is a movie he threw together for fans on the cheap, and obviously pretty quick too. Yeah. Watch it on Netflix if you're a fan. If not, there's no need for you to watch it, honestly. It's not terrible enough to shit all over it, but it's not amazing enough to push on just any movie fan. Anyway, Deviant D, Lights and Entertainment, thanks for checking us out. Be sure to like the videos and subscribe to the channel. Peace!